Hi there. Hey, we are going to do a quick little drawing lesson for ceramics because many of you probably think you cannot draw. And I'm going to show you a little technique that will really help you draw when you are planning out your dome sculpture. And here we go. This is going to seem really simple at first, but I promise it all comes together to be able to draw your character that you find. First, on a piece of paper, draw a line across the middle. And when you're watching this video, stop it and do a little bit what I do, and then start the video again and pause and do what I do. And we're going to draw some basic shapes up here, and we're going to label them, at least verbally. So over here in the top left, I want you to make a peanut shape. And like I said, all of this is going to come together when we start to draw on our dome sculpture. Then I want you to make a long teardrop shape. So a peanut and teardrop. Then smaller ones, I'm going to have you go this way. I want you to draw a football and try to draw these things as big as I am. We're going to really fill up a lot of space here. And I want you to draw, it doesn't have to be perfect. Don't use a template. Don't use a compass. See, that's not perfect, but draw a circle. The next one we're going to draw, these two are kind of similar. The first one is a pear. And a pear will get a little bigger down at the bottom and be a little smaller up on top. Okay, again, pause the video, do this, pause the video, and so on. So the next one is going to be a club shape. Right here we're going to make a club shape, and a club shape is bigger up on top and definitely has kind of a skinnier kind of a handle right down there. Okay, that's the next one, a club. This one is going to be a diamond shape, nice long diamond. Again, yours, try to make them big, because when we do your drawing, I want you to draw big as well. The next one is an oval. Everybody knows what an oval is. Again, stop the film if you need to. The next one is a cone shape. And the tricky part about a cone is start to make a nice long triangle, but the bottom does not go straight across. It has kind of a smile line. That'll help make it look like it's more three-dimensional. The same thing goes with the next one, a cylinder. A cylinder has a kind of a flat oval up on top. Then from both sides, we go straight down and straight down. And we have another smile shape that's pretty darn parallel to that. Most of the time, they're very parallel to each other. So that right there is very much like that one in general. Two more. We are going to make a rectangle. Simple, long rectangle. And we're going to make a trapezoid or parallelogram or whatever that geometric shape is called, where two sides are parallel to each other and these two sides are not. So it's kind of like that shape. Okay, now we're going to use those shapes to draw our character on top of a dome. So I'm going to put that aside. I could try to draw that one, but I'm not going to. And you're going to look for your own resource. Okay, you have to find your own resource, your little insect or an animal or something like that, that will have at least 5 parts to it. And the parts that we talk about are like the body, the head, and major parts like the wings and the legs. You may not count a little eyeball like that as a part, but it's a good feature to have. So when we start to draw this, first thing we want to do, and I'll just kind of have it right there. Oh, you can see it. Is let's draw our dome first. And our dome is going to be very much like, let's see, like an oval and combined with the bottom of a cylinder. Okay, so it's not going to be this tall oval. Ovals come in different shapes. So let's draw the bottom of a cylinder, and then a nice wide top of an oval. You can almost imagine that oval going all the way off the page and back at the top again. I'm going to make mine a little bigger for this sample so you can really see how that drawing is happening. Okay, don't draw super dark at this point because you're going to be making some mistakes and things. All right, now, we have to look at this and ask ourselves which one of these shapes does kind of fulfill the basic quality of that. Okay, to me, it's kind of a short, wide, more of a teardrop shape. So if I was going to think of that and put it right here, and we want to try to do is kind of, and let me see here, on here somewhere. So I have some resources to go by that I have worked from, and there's my sample there. Don't worry about this stuff over here. We're not going to do that. This is all we're going to make. So I'm going to make kind of a wider teardrop shape. And notice how I went over that top line. As soon as we start to erase that line, it is going to make it look like it's sitting really on top of the dome that we're going to create. All right, so let's keep going. So this teardrop shape goes up into the head. So we're going to do something similar. We're going to draw that oval shape. That oval shape might be a little bit bigger at the bottom, okay, because his head gets a little bit bigger. And we can kind of see, if I draw it like that first, I know that's way too big, right? So I'd make it a little smaller. So I'm going to make a kind of an oval shape that might get a little like an egg, you know, maybe more like an egg shape. And if you want to, you can start to erase things that you know you're not going to need later. All right, so let's say we use this, all that together as one thing right now. That's very much like a club shape. If you notice the basic quality of that, and this is what's called drawing whole to parts. So I'm going to draw that club right here. This isn't perfect, and I try to place it kind of where it goes. So again, this is drawing whole to parts. So that means you draw the big shapes first, then you start to get into the details. Okay, so we can just kind of continue to make all of our biggest shapes first. So this little, I forget what that's called down there, that little piece of flesh looks to me like it's kind of like a half of an oval. So I'm just going to plug it in right there. Okay, the legs are a cylinder connected to kind of a fan shape. That's kind of a triangle if you were to draw one line. So here, and I can kind of, and here's a real sneaky trick. You can take that angle right there and just kind of move this out of the way. And look at that, I know exactly where to draw that. So that, that cylinder is right there, and that triangle goes straight up, and I'm going to make it kind of a fan shape, but it's pretty much a triangle. And again, I can start to erase things. You don't see the other leg, so don't draw the other leg if that's what you have. But you can see another kind of fan shape that goes down here, and you can see where the heel kind of disappears. All right? Okay, so let's draw that wing. That wing is, if I could think of that as a circle, it's kind of a half circle. And I'm going to try to place it in a good spot. So let's get this over the top. And I can see that the beginning of this goes right underneath that club shape, right down there, right? So I'm going to make sure that happens, and I make sure this half circle sticks outside the body, because over here it sticks outside the body somewhere. This, what's that? That's that. I could think of that as kind of an oval that gets tucked in behind there. So I can think of that as kind of an oval that might tuck under a little bit more right there. Okay, you can really start to see the proportions of this chicken, right? Just by doing this simple stuff. All right, now let's go and do the eyeballs. The eyeballs are two ovals. Let's draw this one first, and you can see it's, if I were to take this image and draw a line right down the middle, it's over to the right. So you want to think that way too. So if I drew a line right down the middle, it's over to the right. And I can see this eyeball, that oval shape, bumps into this one, and it sticks outside of the outline of his head. So there's, whoop, that was a little too big. And he has little eyebrow or eyelids. This top part is, oh boy, that's kind of an ovally shape that might get a little bigger on top. So there's that oval, might get a little bit bigger on top. And that's that's the whole parts. Then we can start to go into the detail. And you can start wherever you want to. I'll start back here with the tail feathers. There's kind of a round thing here, and it kind of goes here. I can cut in, and I can cut in again, and there's that last feather. And this is why you draw kind of lightly, because you want to eventually kind of get rid of all those sketchy lines that you made. And this is open right here. So there's that little curve. And I tell you guys, if you follow this system, you will be surprised how well you can draw. And this is not just drawing for ceramics. This is how you can draw a million things. If you just look at the whole parts first using those basic shapes that we drew. So you can see how now this is quite a bit like that. Okay? And other details you can put in here too. His little butt area back there looks like it's a little bit thicker. And you can see how this line kind of curves around the leg. I'm looking back and forth quite a bit. And there's one more line right here, right above it, to help show kind of that fleshy fold feel right there. So and same kind of thing would happen with the toes. And I'm going to go through this pretty fast. And that toe is a little smaller. I'm making a few little errors, but that's okay. If I could come back and fix things a little, I would do the same thing there. He has a belly. See, he has a little indent right there. So this is the time to make that belly and make that little indent, and then it kind of makes contact up there. Makes it look more like he's sitting. This little thing hanging from his neck, now it has a little bit of a shape to it. You can kind of just make your best guess at what that shape is, and there's that little line to show that it's folded. Let's get rid of some of our pre-sketch lines. That line right there is a little bit more curved, so watch out for some of those differences. This club, it's kind of a shape of a guitar. Now, if I were to go on the back side of these eyes, as this eye, if I went straight down, that's right where the beak is. If I go straight down, that's how far back I'm going to draw the beak. So I'm going to make it my best guess, and that's a straight line with kind of a curve right there. There's another curve right there. That looks like a number, like a backwards number 3. And then this bottom beak goes over, then it cuts up about halfway into that top beak. There's that little line right there. Now we can start to get rid of some things. This cheek right here, I think it goes up a little higher, but it was pretty close the way I had it the first time. There's a little bump right there. We can start to darken in things. Check this out. There's this little crease on his head to show where his cheeks might be. So all those are the details. When you draw a whole to parts, you're drawing those little parts at the end here. The eyelashes have a little fold right there, and there's a matching one right there. His eyes are those oval shapes. One tucks in behind the other. The pupils of his eyes are black, and I like to leave a little white spot as a reflection. Same thing happens here. And up here is similar to the toes and everything else. We can start to draw those little creases and folds, and this one hangs out a little farther, kind of goes up and back down around. And now again, I'm making this look fast and easy for some of you because I've done it a million times. Okay, so you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have to erase. Now look how big that drawing is. We want that drawing nice and big. That's about how big your sculpture is going to be. So we can really think of your sculpture. You can use this as a way to develop the pieces of your sculpture as well. It may not be quite that big, but it'll be kind of close. We're also going to draw where you want your relief sculpting to be. So you're going to design something underneath here. And on this one, on this little lamb, I drew in a little patch of grass. This is kind of supposed to be a nest at the bottom of that chicken. And here's a monkey that I did a long time ago, and I drew in those leaves. Okay, so you have to kind of pay attention to whether we're going to have you color it or not. We did not give you colored pencils, so we may not have you color it. But let me get that last toe. Okay. I could put a belly button on if I want to. It doesn't matter. So I can just kind of fake in where that nest is. Maybe you draw a couple of little lines to help indicate that there's some grass. And there you go. That's all there is to it. So we're going to really try to make it big. Again, look how big it is compared to my hand. Do not make this little drawing of your guy. And again, it needs to have 5 parts. And again, so you cannot make a ping pong ball or a tennis ball. If you love to play baseball, you can't just put a baseball up there. It needs to have like a body and a head. It should be like a cute little animal, a lizard, a panda bear, a bug with little arms and legs and things. But we'll also warn you against making little tiny things. You cannot make like a praying mantis. Let's say a praying mantis has his little parts and his little head sticking up there, and he has his little arms sticking out to capture little guys. That kind of thing you can't do in clay because it'll break. It needs to be something that's pretty solid and stable. You cannot have little things sticking out. You could not make a ballerina. I always talk about this. So there's the ballerina's legs, and there's her skirt, and there's her other leg, and here's her body, and here's her arm sticking up. Okay? This whole thing will just break off because the clay gets fragile after a while. So you want to think of your idea as something that's very wide and stable at the bottom. We think of it as a pyramid. And this is one of the shapes we could have drawn on our sheet. See how a pyramid is bigger at the base. And then you can make some things on top of the pyramid. But again, here's our pyramid. It's kind of narrower up on top, and it gets bigger toward the base. This one is nice and stable. It's nice and wide at the bottom compared to the same width down here. This one has legs and the belly to kind of make an attachment to. So just hopefully that all makes sense, and you'll be supported more in class. But we are going to draw your sculpture before you build it. That's an important part of the planning process. Professional sculptors plan, professional artists plan their artwork before they make the final. So there you go.